Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Mandy Holmes and I am the Communications Manager with Inchouse Interactive. I'm delighted to be facilitating today's webinar. Thank you for joining us to learn more about the Inchouse Interactive Contact Center options for Microsoft Office 365, including TouchPoint Agent. Now for a brief introduction of our presenter today. We've been very fortunate to have John Cray deliver a few presentations for us now. John is an Inchouse Interactive's VP of Product Management with responsibility for defining the global strategy and release plans for Inchouse Contact Center products. John has over 25 years of experience delivering contact center and CRM solutions and has published articles and papers on topics ranging from the future of contact centers and customer service to optimizing operating system security. He is currently based in Chicago and holds a bachelor's degree in physics from Notre Dame and a master's degree in computer science from the University of Illinois. So let me hand you over to John.
Thanks, Mandy. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for giving us your valuable time today. We really appreciate that. We're actually very excited to be announcing a new product today and a new set of solutions for Office 365 contact centers, which is, I think, long overdue, and we're really excited to be bringing this to market today. So we're going to start by laying out a bit of a problem. We don't ordinarily start a webinar with a problem, but thought that, those of us who are on the webinar today have some awareness of what's going on as Microsoft changes strategy here and rolls out Office 365 and Teams. And so we wanted to kind of lay out the current status of that and where we go from here. So first, as we know, Microsoft is very quickly providing a set of functions in the cloud for Office 365 and Teams for unified communications as an alternative to on-premise Skype for Business. So this does not mean by any means that Microsoft is turning away from on-premise Skype. In fact, they have a new Skype for Business server planned for release later in 2018. But it certainly does mean that they're focusing a huge amount of attention on core unified communications functionality in the cloud with Office 365 and Teams, and that is a principal area of focus for Microsoft. With that, as we know, the call center or contact center is a key part of any business, whether it's your customer service desk, whether it's your help desks internally, whether it's your salespeople. The contact center is often a critical part of managing and running a successful business. And yet, with Office 365 and Teams, we have a new entrant into the communications market. And so Microsoft does not yet have all of the programmatic interfaces that are needed by an application like Contact Center to do things like control calls and gain access to recordings and do Omnichannel and do all the kinds of things that you need in a rich communications environment as it pertains to your contact center. What do we do about that? In the absence of those APIs, is there a way to actually deliver a real call center or real contact center solution to the market on this new communications technology? Well, we actually do have a solution. And in fact, our solution falls into two categories, one for basic call center for voice and the other for full omni-channel, very rich contact center. Let's investigate. So the good news is we now have options for both voice-only call center and contact center that are fully integrated to Office 365, requiring 0 servers and 0 installation on-premise, 0 IT. And that's a key fundamental concept because if you're going to roll out your communications infrastructure on Office 365, it's often the case that you want the contact center to go along with that and be in the cloud or basically be provided with the full capabilities of a call center or contact center without having to worry about your IT department managing servers on premise. We are the industry leader in Microsoft contact centers. We have over 550 contact centers deployed alongside Microsoft technology, Skype for Business, Office 365, worldwide. We believe, best we can tell, we have more than anyone else. So we have more specific deployed in production contact centers with Microsoft than anyone else in the world. And we're working alongside Microsoft as co-development partners. So one of the reasons that we're able to pull this off is that we've been working with Microsoft product management and engineering folks now for years on the best solutions to align with the Microsoft roadmap. We're privy to movements in the roadmap in advance of their coming along. We're working with Microsoft on the APIs, and we're what Microsoft calls a high-touch partner for both contact center and attendant console. So we get to kind of participate with Microsoft in co-development. So with that, we were able to come up with an approach that has the full capabilities to allow call center and contact center management without those APIs being fully in place yet. One of our key precepts, one of our key principles is we want to be able to give our customers that are deploying our call center, contact center functionality a choice. First, they need to be able to choose between whether they want just a voice-only basic low-cost call center option or whether they need a full omni-channel, multi-channel contact center with the full management capabilities and supervisory capabilities of a very complex contact center operation. What's the difference? Well, in the case of the call center, it's often the case that some environments, some customer service or help desk environments only need voice. They haven't necessarily implemented all the additional multi-channel interactions like email or web chat or SMS or social media queuing into their contact center agents. So maybe a basic low-cost option is sufficient. But what also goes along with that choice are the management tools. How complete and complex do you want those management tools to be? Are you okay with a small set of reports, or do you need a full, rich set of hundreds of reports to manage your operation? Those are the kinds of choices that we want to allow our customers to make. And then similarly, we want our customers to be able to decide between Skype for Business on the right-hand side there, the Skype for Business logo, which symbolizes Skype for Business either hosted or on-premise servers, or the new Office 365 and Teams environment. So fundamental to our strategy is allow customers to decide which way they want to go. And key factors along the way are, cost, complexity, management tools, infrastructure, and so on. And one of the things that Enghouse prides ourselves on doing is to help you make the right choice, is to help you consider what the alternatives are, control your costs while also being as productive and complete of a contact center operation as you can. So with that, we'll start out by focusing on the product that we call TouchPoint Agent. So TouchPoint Agent is that call center voice-only option that is low cost but still offers some fairly complete and complex call center operational capabilities. So if you imagine, putting yourself in the position of a call center agent, what do you want to be able to do? Well, first, you're handling calls one right after another, and so we want to make sure that we get the call to the best skilled person. So right out of the gate, we have to provide what in the industry we call skills-based routing. We want to make sure that calls arrive at the desk of the person who's best qualified to handle that call. When they get the call, they've got to see who's calling. They need context. They need to see information about the customer. And that may integrate to your CRM system so that we can tap into that, bring up data about the customer, and or do a screen pop of the customer record so that you can see that Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics or SAP or whatever CRM system you're using. You see that screen, you're ready to go, and you're saving those valuable seconds on the call because you're navigated to that right screen. Then, Microsoft technologies are great at collaboration. So we've got to be able to tap into those collaboration capabilities so you can collaborate with the right person to maximize what in the industry we call first contact or single contact resolution. First contact resolution is key, and so if we can tap into experts, we can leverage their knowledge to get their questions answered on that first call. And then we need the agent to be able to, of course, go on break during the day and control their availability and go into work time and all that sort of thing. But we also want to be able to track all that. How long is the agent spending on break? How long are they spending working when they're not on a call? So all that valuable information, we need to be able to capture that and then provide that data both in real time and in the form of reports. So if we can do all of that, we have provided a fairly rich experience for both agents and supervisors in the call center. How do we do it? Well, in the absence of those APIs that we talked about in the beginning, we've got to be able to integrate directly from the desktop to Office 365. And when we went into this exercise of designing TouchPoint Agent, that's what we had in mind, is a direct connection between the desktop and the Office 365 environment. After all, that's what you have with Office 365 communications infrastructure. You're using either the Skype client or Teams to integrate to Office 365, and so we had to work alongside that direct connection. How do we pull that off? Well, first, for queuing and routing, we leverage the call queues in Office 365 itself. Office 365 has call queues and an auto attendant, which we leverage in order to direct the call to the right person. So a part of this is making sure that we integrate with the queues that are already present in the Office 365 environment. Then we had to have an easy way of installing the application on the desktop and connecting it to Office 365. And the way we do that is through an SDK provided by the Skype client on the desktop. So we use that SDK to connect our application, TouchPoint Agent, directly through that client and into the Office 365 environment. That client, by the way, will continue to be supported as Microsoft moves into Teams. How do they do that? They do it through a gateway in the cloud, and they allow you to run the client side by side with Microsoft Teams. That means that you are not held back from moving fully to Teams while still running the client under the covers. We don't really expose the client. It's just running underneath the system, and then we integrate through that client to get into the cloud. And that's the way it basically works. But what about the data? What about the reporting capabilities? Well, we put the data in Azure, in the Microsoft cloud, and we're able then to operate our reports directly off that data. So there's absolutely no physical equipment on premise, with the exception of the application running on the desktop. That's it. With that, you're running side by side with Teams, you're reporting directly off the cloud, you have absolutely no footprint on premise. It's very, very simple. The way you do it, install the client, it automatically connects to the Skype client, and you're up and running. It's that simple. There are some configuration options, which we can talk about, but basically, and of course there's the setup of the call queues, but it is really, really simple. It takes the typical deployment of a contact center, from weeks to literally minutes, and you're up and running. So with that, I wanted to show you a demonstration of TouchPoint Agent. So we'll go into a little 5-minute segment here where we're demonstrating the application. I'll move over to this other screen and show you what the agent actually looks like in operation. We'll have a call come in. We'll show you what happens when a call comes in. We'll show you how the agent controls their availability and so on. So let's dive in. Okay, so right there at the bottom of the screen, you can see TouchPoint Agent. It occupies very little screen real estate because, again, the agent may want to use a lot of the screen for CRM. And right now, the agent is going to go on break. We're going to go on a very short 1-minute coffee break just to show you what it looks like. And notice that we've synchronized this with the state of Skype, the Skype client itself. We've put that client into Do Not Disturb mode because when you're on a break, that means you don't want to get interrupted. So we synchronize our state with the state in Office 365. When I finish the break, I'm back to available. You can see I'm back logged in there. We also have the concept of what we call work time. So this is different from break. This is actual time, say, spent working on a customer record or a customer issue. And we track that as well. The difference between break and work time is break is under your control. When the break timer ends, you have to physically take yourself out of break. Whereas work time is a countdown timer, and notice after it counted down, I'm back available again. We're also in this single client leveraging the power of the groups and presence that you have in your Office 365 environment. So you can hover over a contact, look up contacts, do searches, hover over email or call clients, contacts directly from this client. You don't have to be moving over to Teams to do that. The agent can live inside this application and use one function after another directly from this small footprint. Now we have a call coming in, and I can answer the call directly from this little client. And when I do, I can see who's calling. In this case, John Cray is calling, and I can see John Cray's record through a Salesforce screen pop on the screen. So we're able to tell from the caller ID information, line that up with our customer records in the CRM application, and then pop up the screen. And then I can do things like find someone to help me. Again, with that concept of collaboration, in this case I'm going to look up Sandra because Sandra is an expert in this particular caller's request, and I'm going to ask Sandra for help. And notice that we're integrating our client application with the full capabilities of Skype and Office 365. In this case, I'm IMing, and I launched that IM session directly from our client TouchPoint Agent application. And then I can ask Sandra, in this case, for help. Sandra can reply back, and in the event she's willing to help, I can then loop her into the conversation or conduct a separate IM session in parallel with Sandra in order to get that help. She's happy to help, so then I can get her help on this particular issue. So I've got all that capability I'm tapping into directly from the client application. If I can put the call on hold, for directly, I can do all the call control, and then let's say I'm in context, I'm going back to that call, and again, I make the screen pop for that customer active on the screen when I go back from hold to actively talking on that call. Then I can end the call directly from the client, and I can track things like wrap-up information. So TouchPoint Agent has the full capability to allow the agent to put in additional information about the call, and then again we track that in that Azure database. What if I want to look at this from a supervisor's point of view? Well, a supervisor can see what's going on in real time. They can see all the active queues. These are the call queues that have been set up in Office 365. And I can also see all the agents in real time and what they're working on. And I can see all the key stats, like how long they've been logged in, how long they spent on work time, break time, and so on. And as an agent, I can look at my own time. I can look at how I've spent my time during the day, how many calls I've taken, how long I've been on break. I've got a little pie chart that shows me percentages. And then as a manager, I can see all the reports. I can see what's going on with my queues. I can see, that by hour. I can see that by day, what my agents are doing. Nice graphical use of colors to kind of show how the day is being spent, what happened in the queues today, what happened with my agents overall in a tabular format, and then what about wrap-ups? And how did my agents overall wrap up calls through the day. This classifies calls or considers what kind of calls I've gotten through the day. And again, all that data is stored in a database in the Microsoft Cloud, and when we look at those reports, we're tapping directly into that data from the cloud. So what did we just see? Well, first we saw skills-based routing. When that call came into that agent, it was routed through those call queues in Office 365, and it got routed to the right agent to handle the interaction. We saw CRM integration. We saw that ability to use the caller ID information to identify the customer, and then from that do a screen pop. In this case, we saw Salesforce, but we could just as easily have popped Dynamics or any application, any CRM application you choose. Anything that provides a web services interface to allow us to do that screen pop. We saw the ability to search through directories and look at the presence of people who were available to help me, the agent, so I could maximize first contact resolution. We saw the ability to categorize calls and wrap up the call with valuable data that allows us to classify those calls, store that data in the Microsoft Cloud, and then access that to determine what kinds of calls we had through the day. Call recording we didn't see, so this is a feature that is coming in the next release of TouchPoint Agent. So the end of this month, we're releasing the first version of TouchPoint Agent, and then in March of 2018, we're going to be releasing a version that also includes the ability to do recording, and we'll store those recordings also in the Microsoft Cloud so that you can get access to the recordings without having to have any on-premise data. We saw the ability for the agent to control their own state. They could put themselves on break, they could go into work time, they could control calls, they could put calls on hold, go back to those calls, transfer, conference, all of those capabilities available directly from the TouchPoint Agent. And then we saw the management tools. We saw the ability to see data in real time, what was going on with the queues and the agents, and we saw those reports, which provide us that graphical information about what's going on in the contact center environment. So TouchPoint Agent is being released on November 29th. So in about 2 weeks, that first version of TouchPoint Agent is going to be available. You can go on a website, enchhousinteractive.com/touchpoint-agent, and that landing page has a little button to allow you to fill in your information and line yourself up for a free trial of the application. One of the nice things about TouchPoint Agent is it does support trials. So you can actually download a copy of the application, put it on your desktop with full features and full capabilities, and start using it day one. And the trial lasts 30 days. There's no limitation on functionality, just a limitation on time. Then if you like the application, just make a request through our website or email us or contact through your partner, and we can get you a license for the application. The application starts at $40 per month per agent and goes up to $50 per agent per month when you add in recording. But that capability it's a very low cost option, and again gives you all the capabilities that you just saw in the demo and more. Okay, so that's TouchPoint Agent. So that's the capability of a call center to have management tools and voice capabilities to do skills-based routing out to their agents, and then have all that productivity of the TouchPoint Agent application on the desktop. But what if I'm going down that other path we saw in the beginning? What if I'm a more complex contact center that, for example, wants not just to queue calls, but to queue, say, emails or chats or instant messages or SMS text media or social media or faxes or whatever it might be. And I want to integrate to my contact center and manage all of those different channels of communication. Or what if the management tools we just saw with TouchPoint Agent are not sufficient? I want a much deeper set of reports or more complex supervisory monitoring capabilities. What then? Well, in addition to launching TouchPoint Agent, we're also launching a full omnichannel hosted option for full omnichannel contact center as well. This omnichannel experience takes what we just saw in TouchPoint Agent and amplifies it to all the channels of communication. So here you see what a multi-channel or omni-channel view would look like for an agent. The agent now has multiple interactions they can stack up in the user interface, including all channels of communication, and they can manage those interactions concurrently. And then by hovering over the customer, you can actually transform one form of communication to another. Say it started as a chat, and now you want to call them directly in order to have a voice conversation, or even escalate that to video. You can do that through this single interface. And we do things like find you all the related interactions for that customer in the past, regardless of channel, regardless of communication type. And we display those in one view. And we can integrate CRM data and other data into this same desktop experience. And notice down there at the bottom right, there's a little scratch pad for taking notes. So there's a lot of capabilities It's a richer, full omni-channel, more complex and complete contact center. So why wouldn't you just go this route? Why would you go with TouchPoint Agent? The primary differentiator is cost. This is a significantly higher level of complex functionality, and alongside that, it is more dollars per agent per month, of course. But so it's really a trade-off of complexity and cost that you're facing, and again, Enghouse is proud to be able to have both options and to allow you to make the right decision which one is appropriate for your specific needs. How do we do it? Again, in the absence of those APIs in the cloud, the approach that Microsoft endorses for integrating to Office 365 is called Federation. So what Federation means is you can take a Skype system or two Skype systems or a Skype system and Office 365, and you can join the contacts of those two systems together. So effectively, contacts in one system look like they're available in another, and that's the approach we're using here. So we have a hosting partner that is hosting our application alongside a multi-tenanted version of Skype for Business, and then that version of Skype is federated to Office 365 so that we have access to all those contacts. So the contact center agent or manager, it just basically looks like they're an Office 365 user. That's then federated into the hosting partner Skype system, which is invisible to the customer. They don't care that there's a Skype system sitting in a hosting partner environment. They don't care or know about that. They just know that they're an Office 365 user. And then we use that same touchpoint experience, layer that on top, and then connect that into the hosting partner's version of Communications Center. And that allows you to have a cloud-based contact center option with Office 365 users. And federation is the key. And the beauty of the federated integration approach is you lose absolutely no functionality from the contact center whatsoever. It is the full, rich experience that you would get if you were literally running the contact center application on your own premise. It's the same rich set of functionality and key features and capabilities that you get. You just happen to be running it from a hosting partner. How does PSTN work? Well, you can, if you have PSTN to your existing premise, you can port the numbers over to the hosting partner's PSTN capabilities, or you can purchase the PSTN directly from the hosting partner. It all works and is all available, and all those options are available to you, and you can make your own decisions there as well. So with the omni-channel approach, you get the power of the full Skype for Business, because again, we're hosting Skype for Business, and you're not limited to the capabilities of Office 365, but you can still run this side by side with Teams integrated to O365. And since in Skype, Microsoft handles all media equally, meaning instant messages, voice, video, and so on, you can easily escalate across media channels, as we saw in that touchpoint user experience. Likewise, I can escalate to other channels like email or SMS. And the way Microsoft manages call control in this environment is through conferences. So since all calls go into a conference in the hosting partner and then federate out to those Office 365 users who are your agents, it means you get all the power of conferences, which means you can do things like have supervisors monitor calls, allow recording in the cloud, allow the supervisor to barge into conversations, allow the supervisor to whisper to agents, advice without the customer hearing that side of the conversation. All those capabilities are available to you, and you can do that through this conferencing capability. And then, of course, as we saw with TouchPoint Agent, but we also see with this environment, this Communications Center Online environment, you get all the capabilities of collaboration and presence provided by Microsoft. So you get that directory searching capability, looking someone up by department or by name. You can see their presence, even those Office 365 enterprise users. If you want to bring them into a conversation, you can, and you can see their presence because they are federated contacts. And you have that full collaboration capability either with your other agents or supervisors or with people in the back office who might be experts in a particular kind of call, you know, that you need to drag them into a conversation or IM them to get their help. And the users, as is the case, of course, one of the strengths of Office 365, the users can be located anywhere in the world across any network, and you can tap into them. So this table basically summarizes what we just saw. That column that says Express represents the capabilities of TouchPoint Agent. It is a voice solution, simple but low cost, that allows you to do things like leverage the auto attendant and call queues in the cloud in order to get skills-based routing to the right person to address that interaction. But of course, we have the desktop experience for the agent. That's driven by the fact that we are all about productivity. Again, we're small, we're out of the way, we're running in the tray down at the bottom of the screen, but we still have all that power and capability to control calls and look up contacts and manage agent availability and all that stuff directly from that small footprint. And then you've got a small set of reports, but a very valuable set of reports in the TouchPoint Agent environment. And then as of March, call recording, and as of now, the ability to pop up and CRM and integrate to CRM in order to really maximize the productivity of the agent. Then when you step up to Omnichannel or higher complexity contact centers, you have the choice to do that either through on-premise integration to, say, your Skype for Business servers, or in this hosted communication center online capability. But again, it's up to you. It's up to the customer, and we can help you make that choice, what is appropriate for you. And alongside that, you not only do you get the full omni-channel capabilities of the contact center, but you get more sophisticated queuing and routing capabilities, like the ability to tap into CRM to drive routing decisions based on customer data, or the ability, of course, to do the more advanced capabilities of TouchPoint, including setting goals and KPIs for your teams and your users, the ability to see more complete history of the callers or people who are interacting with your contact center, and a much deeper set of reports that includes lots of sophisticated stats and analytics that are provided by the full communication center solution. There are a couple of slight differences between on-premise and the hosted environment in terms of recording and evaluation. Recording and evaluation are available through our quality management suite product, both on-premise and hosted. We can't capture screens in the hosted environment because of privacy considerations, because you'd actually have to drill a hole in the firewall to do that. So there are a few little differences between hosted online and on-premise, but they are minor. For the most part, the full capabilities of the on-premise contact center are provided in the hosted online version as well. So how do you go about making the decision what's right for you? Well, again, we can help you to do that along with our partners. We can help you make those appropriate decisions. We can provide for you the costing for both models, the trade-offs, in functionality, the trade-offs in management tools. We also provide different levels of management here as well, and it can get a little bit involved because you want to make the decision how much you want to manage or administer your own system versus allow that to be done by Enghouse or our partners. So all of those trade-offs are things we can walk you through, and you can understand and get exactly the level of control that you want to get. So with that, just wanted to wrap up by again reiterating our vast experience with Microsoft, which actually spans over 10 years of integration to Microsoft communications frameworks, now over 550 deployments. We're very happy to be a partner of Microsoft's, and we're thrilled to be able to as Microsoft rolls out Office 365 and Teams capabilities, to be able to offer our own vast contact center experience and technologies alongside those offerings. So with that, I will open it up in case anyone has any questions they'd like to ask.
Thank you, John. As mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we'll take questions now. And as a reminder, please type all your questions into the chat pane in the GoWebinar interface. But we've had a few come through during the presentation, so we'll start with those. The first one, John, is in the Simple Call Center, is there an option for advanced reporting? So we have historical reporting from selectable periods.
So the simple answer is no. The data is stored in Azure, and we haven't yet built a model to expose that data for the development of custom reports. So say you wanted to develop your own reporting view off of that data. That is something that we are planning to do over time. We will provide a layer that allows you access to the data so that either Enghouse can build something for you, or you can build your own custom report if you don't like the views that are provided. But that is not in the first version of the TouchPoint Agent. Now the full-blown Communication Center Online capability does provide the ability to do a vast suite of reports and also some custom things as well.
Okay, great. The next question we have is there an upgrade path from the TouchPoint Agent to the Omnichannel Contact Center?
Good question. In a sense there is, because it is the same user experience. So if you start out on TouchPoint Agent and you train your agents on how to leverage the power of that interface, and then they step up to Communication Center Online, they don't have to be retrained. They just simply add functions. So there's no difference in the user experience other than there's more of it. There's more functions and more capabilities. However, the data does not currently move over. So when you make the transition from TouchPoint Agent to Communication Center Online, we don't take the Azure data and move it over into the hosted database. That transition is not currently. So there is some, again, we can help with this. It's pretty easy to do, but we'd have to replicate the configuration options that you've chosen, and we'd have to potentially start from scratch on the reporting data. But that's really the only gotcha there. The actual experience for the users is just an easy transition.
Great, thank you. The next question is, what role will the vendor play in supporting or managing the customer's deployment? Great question.
So first of all, we have full support capabilities for the deployment. So you have a problem with either configuration we talked about today, you simply go through your standard channel for support, and we're there to solve the problem. And we have full diagnostic capabilities in all of these environments to allow us to quickly diagnose and solve problems. In the case of TouchPoint Agent, there are a set of configuration options available to you, but really there's not a lot of depth of configuration. We can support you if you have questions about, say, how the right way to set up call queues in Office 365 in order to integrate to the environment, things like that. We can help you with that. But there's not really all that much to do. It's fairly simple and not very complex to set it up and start using it. In the case of Communication Center Online, there are many more choices about how to set up, configure, and administer the system. And we have different options available to you. So you can either have access to our administrator directly to make those choices yourself, and we can train you on how to do that, or you can select an option to just have us do it and send your moves, adds, and change requests to us through an email channel. And we're going to provide that so that you can, say, if you want to make a request to add a queue or add a group of users or set up routing rules in a particular way, or change, say, auto attendance script or something like that to add an option, a menu option. That can be done in the form of a request, and we can do the work for you. So we have that option available to you as well.
Great. The next question is, if we already have TouchPoint installed, will the trial interfere with that?
You can't run two copies of TouchPoint side by side on the same desktop. So you can't run TouchPoint Agent and TouchPoint together. But you can certainly have different users using the two different applications. So if you wanted to try it out, and assign a group of users, or just simply not run the full version of TouchPoint while you're running TouchPoint Agent on a particular desktop, you can definitely do that. Again, TouchPoint Agent connects through the Skype client, not through a server. So what that means is you just you launch it, it connects to your client, and whoever your client is logged in as, that person is the person who starts getting calls. And if that person is in a call queue in the Office 365 cloud, they will start getting calls from that call queue. And then we recognize those call queues in the TouchPoint Agent, and we provide the information. You might have noticed in the demo that when a call comes into a call queue, we expose which queue it's come in on. So as an agent, you can belong to multiple queues as well. So that's all supported. But, you know, it's kind of, the rule is kind of, just to make it simple, the rule is you just can't run 2 copies of TouchPoint at the same time. Outside of that, you can do whatever you like.
Okay. The next question we have is, does the TouchPoint Agent work for on-prem users or only 365 users? The comment is, we are in a hybrid environment currently with some users on Office 365 and some on-prem.
So the version 1 only works with Office 365. We are looking at an option to allow the TouchPoint Agent to work with on-premise response groups instead of Office 365 call queues. So on Skype for Business on-premise uses the concept of response groups to do call queuing and routing, and we are looking at an option to allow that, but that is not provided in this first version. So what that means is you'd have, if you're in a hybrid environment, TouchPoint Agent would only be useful for you for your people that are directly connected to Office 365, not to the Skype for Business server.
Okay, and piggybacking off of that question, what telephony infrastructure is needed to have calling routed in Office 365?
It's actually something that you get for free with Office 365 with your E5 Cal. You get access to the auto attendant and call queues. There are Microsoft administrative tools to allow you to set up the menus in the Office 365 auto attendant and to set up the call queues and the rules for how those call queues operate. And in our help file for TouchPoint Agent, we provide guidelines on how to appropriately set up the call queues to feed the TouchPoint Agent those calls in the best possible way. So we provide you kind of some guidelines for the best way to set that up. But you get it for free. There's nothing additional you have to purchase in Office 365 to get those call queues.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, does TouchPoint Call Center provide ability to log in and log out of individual queues, or are you all in or all out?
You're all in or all out today. It's another one of those things we're looking at, is whether we can provide separate controls for separate queues. And that is something that in the full-blown Communications Center online capability we do have. So you have the ability to be in what we call multiple login classes, which is a collection of queues. So for example, you can have an agent that, say, in the morning is on this set of queues, and in the afternoon they log into a different set of queues. That's the kind of thing we support with the full system. That's a good example of one of these more complex functions that is provided in the online system that is not in TouchPoint Agent. So in TouchPoint Agent, you're all in or you're all out. Now that said, you can, again, go into your queues and pull agents in and out of them as you choose. And you can even do that during the day if you want to do that. You use the Microsoft tools to do that. And again, we have some guidelines for how to do that in the TouchPoint Agent files.
Perfect, thank you. What is the regulatory compliance for the call recording?
So we are going to be providing some layers of security there. So we actually do store the recordings in Azure. And we have the protection that Azure provides for accessing that data. And we are using HTTPS, so we're using an encrypted connection to get access to those recordings, as well as an encrypted connection to put the recordings up in the cloud. We also are going to provide archival capabilities for the recordings, so you can store them longer if you want to. Again, the way we're doing that is by anyone who wants to store the recordings longer than 90 days, we're providing the ability to kind of access and put them in a private store, which would be under your control. That's with TouchPoint Agent. With the online system, we provide a lot of capabilities for PCI compliance. So there you can do things like allow programmatic control of turning recordings off when, say, an agent tabs into a social security field or a credit card number field or something like that. We do with TouchPoint Agent, we are planning to allow the agent to control recordings, so they can pause recordings when the customer is speaking private information or turn recordings on and off as needed. But again, that's under the control of the agent. So in both cases, we've made an attempt to protect the recording data. We've made an attempt to, do encryption where necessary. We've made an attempt to allow private storage of recordings, and we've made an attempt to allow agent control over pause and what is and isn't recorded. But the full Communication Center Online is a little bit richer in terms of how much compliance is provided.
Thank you. If an agent is on a voice call, could they receive an email at the same time, or will they only process one item at a time?
So here we're talking not about TouchPoint Agent, because again, TouchPoint Agent is just voice. We're talking about the full Communication Center Online capability. And as with our Communication Center product, whether it's on-premise or online, that is completely up to you. So you have the ability to set up rules for how emails are delivered to agents. And you can say, for example, that if an agent is on a call, they cannot get an email, or you can say, no, that's perfectly okay. When an agent is on a call, they can get an email, and they can even handle a web chat or 2 web chats in a call, or whatever you decide is an appropriate combination of interactions that agents can handle. And of course, we can help you with that. We can help you make those decisions. We have a lot of experience with what agents are able to handle. One common error, I think, is maybe overdoing the number of web chats that an agent is capable of handling at one time. And we have some best practices that we can help you with there. But that is completely in your control. You can configure the system for any mix. And sometimes you want your more senior agents to be able to handle multiple interactions at a time, and your less senior agents to be more focused. And that is completely in your control.
Thank you. What configuration options are available in TouchPoint Agent?
Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, we saw the breaks, and agents can go on breaks, and you can set up different break reasons, coffee break or afternoon break or whatever kinds of breaks you have in your own environment. Those break reasons are all configurable. Similarly, wrap-ups, the way you wrap up calls and categorize calls in the system are configurable. You can set up 3 different levels of wrap-up, so almost in a hierarchy. So you could say this was a call about cakes, and it was a call where, a call where the customer placed an order, and it was a call where the agent was successfully able to help them, or whatever you choose for those wrap-up reasons. And then all that wrap-up data is stored in the Azure database. And then you can actually set up queue prioritization. So this is one thing we didn't talk about, but it's possible that, and you might stack up calls. If you're a busy call center operation, you might stack up calls across multiple queues, and on a per agent basis, you can actually configure which queue is more important, and then that agent will get the call from the more important queue over the less important queue. So for example, you could have a queue for your premier customers in the call queues in the Office 365 cloud, and that premier customer queue could get priority over the normal customer queue. That's an option. So all that kind of thing is available. Another configuration option in TouchPoint Agent is the role. is this person an agent or is this person a supervisor who needs the more advanced real-time dashboard data and reporting data available to them? So, that's what determines whether you can get access to those reports, is whether you have turned on that supervisor role. So that's available as well. And that's really, there are a couple of other minor configuration options, timers and things like that. But overall, it's those are sort of the main capabilities you can configure in TouchPoint Agent.
Perfect. This next question is two-parted. First part is, what is unique about the Omnichannel Communication Center online solution? And the second part is, what are its advantages over the other cloud contact center options available in the market?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what sets this particular solution apart, and I'll refer to both TouchPoint Agent and Communication Center Online in answering this, is how deeply it is tied to Microsoft. We've been developing this solution and connecting it to Microsoft Skype for Business now, and prior to that, to OCS and even LCS back in the old days, for a decade. And so it has a very rich integration with Microsoft. So unlike a lot of the cloud contact centers that are sort of generic that are out in the market, that basically use what you might call a loose integration to a PBX through SIP, or some kind of loose integration protocol, this one is deeply tied to Microsoft's endorsed methods of integration. Whether for Communication Center Online, it's the Microsoft conferences, in the hosting environment that offer all that rich capability for barge and whisper coaching and all that capability, or the ability for us to escalate across media in Microsoft and move from calls to video and so on, or the ability for us to tap into the contacts and presence of the Skype and Office 365 environments, and having that rich set of capabilities to tap into experts in the back office and all of that, and leverage that collaboration capability. All of that is what we had in mind when we designed these technologies. So it's really richly tied into Microsoft to maximize and optimize Microsoft's collaboration capabilities from the perspective of the contact center. And I think that's primarily what sets it apart. That, and of course, Enghouse has been doing contact centers now for 25 years. We've been doing it for a long, long time. So we know how to migrate a customer, say, from a legacy PBX like Avaya or Cisco or Mitel or ShoreTel or NEC to a Microsoft environment, and what it takes to make that customer successful in that migration. We're really, really good at that. Now, to toot our own horn here, we're really, really good at that. We've been doing it for a long time, and we've done it so many times that we know how to really maximize the productivity you get out of that migration.
Thank you. The next question is, can we change voice recordings on the fly? For example, changing the welcome message due to the office closing due to weather.
Yeah, so so in both environments, the TouchPoint Agent environment and in the Communication Center Online environment, yes, you do have that capability to, say, take a queue out of service or route all calls to, say, an emergency queue or that kind of thing. So both environments have that. In the case of TouchPoint Agent, you do that through the Microsoft tools, to control the call queues. In the case of the Communication Center Online capability, you do it through our own Communication Center tools to take a queue out of service. One of the advantages, again, it's one of those richness considerations. One of the advantages to Communication Center Online is you can go through TouchPoint to do that. You can actually hover over a queue and take a queue out of service directly from the TouchPoint application itself, which you can't do with TPA yet, but you would still have the capability through the Microsoft tools to do that.
Great. We have time for just a couple more questions. So this next one, how does Communication Center Online stack up to current on-prem contact center solutions?
It's in the case of our own on-prem, it's really close. We talked about a couple of minor differences. One of those was, we can't do screen capture or screen recording for the quality management product in the online version. That's strictly because of firewall and security considerations. It's not because of a lack of functionality in the offering, but it's just we didn't want to have to force our customers to drill a hole in their firewall. Really, this works over the internet. So that's one of the beauties here, is you don't have to do a VPN connection or anything like that. In fact, we discourage that. We absolutely want this thing to work over the open internet in a secure way. So that is a key design consideration that we had in developing Communications Center Online. But there are some minor differences in functionality between an on-premise version and the online version, but they are very, very minor. The best way to think about it is pretty much what you can do on-premise, you can do in the online version as well. Pretty close.
Great, and we just have time for one more question. So for holidays, can you automate taking one or all queues out of service for defined start and end date and times?
So for online, no question about it, you can do that. There are schedules that you can take queues in and out of service for holidays and all that, and all those schedules are per queue, and it's absolutely the case that you can do that. For the TouchPoint Agent using the Microsoft call queues in the cloud, I do not think the call queues yet support holiday scheduling. I believe that is in the Office 365 roadmap, but I don't actually know the date when that will be available. So it would be one of those things where you would have to start out by doing that manually, and then theoretically when Microsoft adds the holiday call queues capability into their environment, then you'd get it. Then you'd be able to inherit that. So it'd be one of those things you'd have to evolve to.
Perfect. Thank you, John, and thank you, everyone. That includes today's webinar. So thank you for attending, and have a great rest of your day.